In a serene Igbo village, surrounded by lush hills and a shimmering river, lived a girl named Adanna. Her name, meaning father's daughter, was a reflection of the deep love and pride her parents, Nkem and Obiageli, felt for her. Adanna was renowned throughout the village for her stunning beauty, which seemed to radiate like the morning sun. Her skin had the warm, rich hue of polished mahogany, her eyes sparkled like stars, and her smile could light up the darkest night. Her long flowing hair was as dark as a raven's wing, and she moved with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly. But Adanna's beauty was more than skin deep. She was kind and humble, always helping her parents with their small farm and treating everyone with respect. Despite their modest means, Nkem and Obiageli cherished their daughter and instilled in her strong values. However, Adanna's beauty also stirred jealousy among the village girls, especially 7 girls her age: Amaka, Chinyere, Ifeoma, Ngozi, Neka, Ogechi, and Uzoamaka. These girls often felt overshadowed by Adanna and envied the attention she received from the village's young men. As the village prepared for the upcoming New Yam Festival, a time of great celebration, the excitement was palpable. The festival was a joyous occasion filled with music, dancing, and feasting. It was also a time when young women dressed in their finest attire, hoping to catch the eye of potential suitors. The festival's highlight was the dance, where the most beautiful maiden would be honored. One day, while Adanna was fetching water from the village spring, she encountered the 7 girls. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers, and the sun cast a golden glow on the landscape. The girls, dressed in brightly colored wrappers and adorned with beads, greeted Adanna with smiles that barely concealed their true feelings. Amaka, with a voice laced with false sweetness, invited Adanna to join them at the festival. "It's going to be a grand event," she said, "and you should be there." Adanna hesitated, looking unsure. "I would love to, but my parents need me. There is much work to be done at home, and I cannot leave them alone," she explained, her voice soft yet firm. Chinyere pressed on, her tone insistent. "Surely you can spare some time, Adanna. This festival is important, and everyone will be there." Adanna shook her head gently. "I'm sorry, but my duties come first. My parents rely on me," she replied, feeling a twinge of regret. The girls exchanged glances, their smiles faltering. They bid her farewell, but as they walked away, their faces twisted into expressions of jealousy and anger. The village often whispered about Adanna's beauty, and the young men lavished her with attention, much to the dismay of the other girls. The 7 girls, in particular, harbored a deep resentment toward Adanna, feeling that her presence diminished their own chances of being admired and chosen during the festival. That evening, the 7 girls gathered in Amaka's hut, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames of a small oil lamp. The air was thick with the scent of burning palm oil, and the mood was tense. "We cannot let Adanna outshine us again," Ifeoma said, her voice tinged with bitterness. "She always gets all the attention, and it's not fair." Ngozi nodded in agreement. "She's too beautiful for her own good. We must find a way to make her stay away from the festival." Ogechi, who had been silent until then, leaned forward, her eyes glinting with mischief. "Why don't we pretend to be her friends? We'll help her with her chores, gain her trust, and then we'll lure her to the festival. Once she's there, we'll teach her a lesson she'll never forget." The plan was met with eager nods. The girls decided to visit Adanna's home every day, offering their help with chores under the guise of friendship. They hoped that by doing so, they could eventually manipulate her into attending the festival, where they would exact their revenge. The next morning, Adanna's parents were surprised when the 7 girls arrived at their home, offering to help with the chores. "We just want to be friends with Adanna," Amaka explained, her voice sweet but insincere. "We think she's wonderful, and we'd like to spend time with her." Nkem and Obiajeli exchanged wary glances, but allowed the girls to help. Adanna, though cautious, appreciated the assistance, especially since it allowed her to finish her tasks more quickly. The girls continued their visits over the following days, helping with the farm work, fetching water, and cleaning the house. They chatted and laughed, pretending to enjoy Adanna's company while secretly plotting against her. As the festival day approached, the girls intensified their efforts. On the day before the event, they arrived at Adanna's home early in the morning. "Adanna, we're here to help you get everything done, so you can come to the festival with us," Neka said, her voice filled with false cheer. Adanna hesitated, looking at the long list of chores her parents had left for her. The thought of attending the festival was tempting, but she knew her parents were strict about her completing her duties. "I don't know," she said, uncertainty clouding her eyes. "There's so much to do." Uzoamaka, sensing Adanna's hesitation, quickly spoke up. "Don't worry, we'll help you. With all of us working together, we'll get everything done in no time." Reluctantly, Adanna agreed. The girls worked diligently, completing the chores with surprising speed. They fetched water, polished the walls, cleaned the floors, and weeded the garden. As they finished the last task, they turned to Adanna, their faces alight with triumph. "See? Everything's done," Amaka said, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. "Now you have no excuse not to come." Adanna, seeing the completed chores and feeling a twinge of excitement, decided to join them. She dressed in a simple but elegant outfit, her beauty shining even without the adornments that the other girls wore. The 7 girls exchanged glances, their eyes narrowing with jealousy, but they kept their true feelings hidden. The journey to the festival was filled with laughter and chatter, but beneath the surface, the girls' resentment simmered. As they approached the river that marked the halfway point to the village hosting the festival, a sudden hush fell over the group. The river was known to be the domain of a powerful water juju, a spirit that required offerings from those who crossed its waters. The 7 girls, familiar with the tradition, had brought small portions of fufu and fish to offer to the spirit. Adanna, unaware of this custom, had brought nothing. As they reached the riverbank, the girls began to make their offerings, casting bits of food into the water. Adanna watched, confused and anxious. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. "We're offering food to the water juju," Ifeoma explained, her tone nonchalant. "It's a tradition. Anyone who crosses the river must make an offering, or the juju will be angry." Adanna's heart sank. She had not been told about this tradition, and she had nothing to offer. "Please, can you give me a little bit of your food?" she asked, her voice pleading. "I didn't know about the offering." The girls exchanged knowing looks, their eyes gleaming with malice. "Sorry, Adanna," Gozi said, her voice cold. "We only brought enough for ourselves." Adanna's eyes filled with tears, but she tried to hold them back. She had no choice but to cross the river without an offering. As she stepped into the water, a chill ran down her spine. The river seemed to murmur and whisper, as if alive. The water felt colder than usual, and a sense of dread filled her heart. As Adanna waded deeper into the river, the water began to churn around her. Suddenly, a powerful force pulled her under. The girls watched in horror and disbelief as Adanna disappeared beneath the surface. The water stilled, and there was no sign of her. The 7 girls stood frozen, their faces pale. They had not anticipated such a dire consequence. Fear gripped them as they realized the severity of what had happened. They had wanted to humiliate Adanna, not endanger her life. But now it was too late. Panic set in, and they hurriedly crossed the river, their minds racing with fear and guilt. Unbeknownst to the girls, a small bird had been watching the entire event from the branches of a nearby tree. This bird was no ordinary creature. It was a messenger of the spirit world, gifted with the ability to speak and understand human emotions. The bird felt great sympathy for Adanna and resolved to help her. It flew off towards the village, hoping to alert someone to Adanna's plight. Meanwhile, back in the village, Nkem and Obiageli were growing increasingly worried. They had noticed Adanna's absence and had heard rumors that she had been seen heading towards the festival. Concerned for her safety, they sought the help of a renowned juju man, Chief Obika, known for his wisdom and spiritual insight. Chief Obika, a tall and imposing figure, listened intently as Nkem and Obiageli explained the situation. He wore traditional regalia, adorned with cowrie shells and feathers, and his eyes were sharp and penetrating. He nodded thoughtfully, and using his mystical tools, sought guidance from the spirit world. "The water juju has taken your daughter," Chief Obika declared solemnly, his voice deep and resonant. "She crossed the river without making an offering, and now she is trapped in the spirit world. But there is hope. The juju will give you 7 chances to retrieve her. If you fail on the 7th attempt, she will be lost forever." Nkem and Obiageli's faces turned ashen with fear, but they were determined to save their daughter. "What must we do?" Nkem asked, his voice trembling. "You must prepare a special offering," Chief Obika instructed. "Bring a goat, eggs, and a white cloth to the river at dawn. The juju will present Adanna to you 7 times. You must catch her before the 7th attempt, or she will be lost to the spirit world." As Chief Obika finished speaking, the small bird flew into the hut, perching on a wooden beam. The bird spoke, its voice clear and melodious. "I have witnessed the treachery of the 7 girls. They are the ones who denied Adanna the chance to make an offering and thus brought this misfortune upon her." Chief Obika nodded, acknowledging the bird's words. "The truth will be revealed," he said, his voice firm. "Prepare the offering and be ready at dawn." That night, Nkem and Obiageli prepared the offering, their hearts heavy with worry. The small bird stayed with them, offering comfort and guidance. As dawn approached, they made their way to the river, the air cool and misty. The river seemed calm, but a sense of anticipation hung in the air. They placed the offering on the riverbank, and as the first rays of the sun touched the water, the river began to churn and bubble. Suddenly, Adanna emerged from the depths, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. Nkem, prepared and quick, reached out and caught her, pulling her to safety. The family embraced, tears of relief streaming down their faces. But Chief Obika warned them to keep Adanna's return a secret, for the truth about the 7 girls' actions needed to be revealed. They devised a plan to expose the treachery. Nkem invited the entire village to a grand celebration, ostensibly to honor the spirits for returning Adanna from the spirit world. The village buzzed with curiosity and excitement, eager to witness the miraculous event. The next day, Nkem prepared a deep pit in the ground, covering it with fresh mats and decorating it with flowers and festive items. The pit, hidden beneath the cheerful decorations, was lined with sharp stakes and dried palm leaves. The village gathered around, the air filled with the sound of drums and singing. Adanna, dressed in a beautiful white gown, sat gracefully at the center, her beauty even more radiant after her ordeal. The 7 girls arrived, their faces painted with forced smiles. They had hoped to avoid any consequences for their actions, but as they saw the grandeur of the event, a sense of foreboding crept into their hearts. Nkem welcomed them warmly, offering them drinks and a place of honor. He handed each girl a brass rod, a symbol of goodwill and reconciliation. As the celebration reached its peak, Nkem invited the girls to sit on the decorated mats, directly above the concealed pit. As they stepped onto the mats, the covering gave way, and the girls fell into the pit below. Gasps and cries of shock filled the air as the villagers realized what had happened. Nkem, without hesitation, threw red-hot ashes into the pit, igniting the dried palm leaves. The flames roared to life, and the girls screamed in terror and pain. The villagers watched in horror, their faces pale with shock. The sight was both terrifying and surreal, as the beautiful celebration turned into a scene of retribution. The air was thick with the acrid smell of burning leaves and the cries of the dying girls. The flames flickered and danced, casting eerie shadows across the gathering. As the fire consumed the girls, the small bird, perched nearby, began to speak. These girls plotted against Adanna out of jealousy and malice. They denied her the chance to make an offering to the water juju, leading to her near demise. They have received the punishment they deserve. The villagers were stunned into silence, the weight of the revelation settling over them like a heavy blanket. The truth was undeniable, and the severity of the girls' actions became clear to all. The parents of the deceased girls, overcome with grief and anger, rushed to the head chief, demanding justice. The chief, a wise and respected elder, called for a council meeting. The entire village gathered, the atmosphere tense and somber. The chief listened as Nkem, Obiageli, Chief Obika, and the small bird recounted the events that had transpired. The bird's testimony, along with Chief Obika's insights, provided a clear picture of the girls' treachery and the consequences of their actions. The chief, after a long silence, spoke. His voice was calm but firm. The actions of the 7 girls were born out of envy and malice. They sought to harm Adanna, and in doing so, they brought harm upon themselves. The punishment they received was harsh, but it was a result of their own choices. The parents of the deceased girls wept, their cries filled with sorrow and regret. The chief continued, his tone softening. Let this be a lesson to all. Jealousy and envy are destructive forces. They lead to pain and suffering for all involved. We must learn to appreciate the beauty and virtues of others without resentment. He turned to Adanna and her family, his eyes filled with compassion. Adanna, you have shown great courage and grace. Your beauty is not just in your appearance, but in your heart. We honor you and your family for the strength and dignity you have displayed. The villagers nodded in agreement, their expressions a mix of awe and respect. The chief decreed that the village would hold a day of mourning for the 7 girls, acknowledging the tragedy of their fate. He also declared a day of celebration in honor of Adanna, recognizing her as a symbol of inner and outer beauty. The story of Adanna and the 7 girls became a legend in the village, passed down through generations. It served as a powerful reminder of the dangers of jealousy and the importance of kindness and humility. Adanna's grace and resilience became a source of inspiration for many, and her legacy endured long after the events of that fateful day. In the years that followed, Adanna grew into a wise and compassionate woman, beloved by all who knew her. She continued to live a humble life, always remembering the lessons she had learned. The small bird, her faithful companion, stayed by her side, a symbol of the spiritual guidance that had saved her life. The village too changed. The people became more mindful of their actions and the impact of their emotions on others. They celebrated each other's achievements and learned to value inner qualities over outward appearances. The story of Adanna and the 7 girls was told and retold, a timeless tale of beauty, virtue, and the consequences of envy. And so, Adanna's story became a cherished part of the village's heritage, a beacon of hope and a testament to the enduring power of love and forgiveness. The lessons learned from her ordeal continued to guide the hearts and minds of the villagers, ensuring that the spirit of kindness and compassion thrived in their community. In the end, Adanna's beauty was not just in her appearance, but in her soul. She taught the village that true beauty lies in the heart, and her story became a legend that transcended time, reminding all who heard it of the importance of love, humility, and forgiveness.